The soccer world is once again being shaken by a series of major developments. Barcelona is now taking a new step in their efforts to complete the signing of Julian Alvarez, while the story of a legacy that will be remembered forever has once again captured attention. In the midst of this emotional atmosphere, the AFA president delivered a special message to Lionel Messi that touched the hearts of many people. But that's not all. Pep Guardiola's statement following the heartbreaking news that affected Messi's family has also become a major talking point, sparking various reactions from soccer fans around the world. At the same time, a possibility that has once again caught the attention of Messi's supporters has emerged. Could the Argentine legend still play in the 2030 World Cup? If Messi were to truly return to the World Cup stage at a much more advanced age, it would certainly be one of the most extraordinary moments in soccer history. What do you think? Is Messi still capable of leading Argentina to compete at the highest level once again? Let us know your opinion in the comments below. And before we get into the full story, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the latest updates about Lionel Messi, Argentina, Barcelona, and the world of soccer. Barcelona changes its strategy to complete the Julian Alvarez transfer. Spanish club Barcelona continues to make efforts to sign Argentine striker Julian Alvarez. Although the transfer process is extremely complicated and the amount of time available is becoming increasingly limited, the Catalan club is still holding firmly to its hopes of completing the deal according to its plans. In the last few hours, there has been new movement within Barcelona's management. Deco, the club's sporting director, held a meeting with Fernando Hidalgo, the Argentine player's agent, in the Spanish capital, Madrid. The meeting resulted in a major change in the strategy Barcelona is using in its attempt to bring Alvarez to Camp Nou, in order to make the dream that the player recently revealed a reality. Barcelona and Alvarez's new plan. According to a report from the Spanish newspaper AS, the player has decided to end the period of public pressure that he had previously applied, particularly when he stated during the World Cup in the United States that he wanted to leave in order to fulfill a dream. This new strategy will rely entirely on diplomacy and internal dialogue. Julian Alvarez is expected to join his Atletico Madrid teammates for the scheduled training session and will not make any statements to the media. Instead, he will wait to hold a private meeting with manager Diego Simeone, followed by another meeting with the club's management. During those meetings, he will once again make it clear that he wants to leave and that the only destination he is willing to accept is Barcelona. With the firm stance shown by Simeone and Atletico Madrid CEO Miguel Ángel Gil Marín, who are opposed to the player's departure, there are still doubts about whether this diplomatic approach will succeed. Atletico Madrid's management must consider the risks of keeping a player who has openly expressed his desire to leave. This is especially important because the situation could remind them of a previous promise reportedly made to the player, according to his agent, that he would be allowed to leave if an appropriate offer arrived. Now, the offer from Catalonia is also increasing. Alvarez believes Barcelona's proposal would be a good move for both sides. However, so far, Atletico Madrid's management does not share the same view. It is very possible that this internal dialogue between the player and his club is taking place at the same time as Barcelona's efforts to make a significant increase to its financial offer. Barcelona's first offer was below 100 million euros. The offer was then increased to reach that figure. Now, various reports indicate that the Catalan club is preparing a new offer approaching 120 million euros in an attempt to convince Atletico Madrid's management to allow the Argentine striker to leave. A legacy that will never fade. Sad news has once again cast a shadow over the soccer world. This time, attention has turned to Lionel Messi and his family following the death of his father, Jorge Messi, at the age of 68 after a long battle with illness. For Messi, this loss is certainly more than simply losing a father. It also means losing the person who stood behind him for so many years throughout his extraordinary journey to becoming one of the greatest players in soccer history. Amid the deep sadness, Claudio Tapia, president of the Argentine Football Association, or AFA, delivered a deeply meaningful message to Lionel Messi. Tapia's relationship with Messi has been close for many years, making the message he shared on this occasion feel even more personal and emotional. On August 8, 2026, Jorge Messi was reportedly said to have passed away in Rosario at the age of 68 after undergoing several months of treatment for cancer. The news then received widespread attention throughout the soccer world, with numerous figures and organizations expressing their support and condolences to Lionel Messi and his family. Claudio Tapia paid tribute through his official account and the official AFA account. In his message, Tapia did not simply remember Jorge Messi as the father of a soccer legend, but also as someone who played a major role in shaping Lionel Messi's character from the very beginning of his career. Tapia wrote that the world must say goodbye to a man who played a fundamental role behind one of the greatest stories in the history of world soccer. According to Tapia, Jorge Messi's contribution should not be measured only by his success in supporting Lionel on his journey to becoming a world-class player. More than that, Jorge was also seen as someone who successfully raised a person known for being humble, respectful, and deeply committed to the people around him. The message became even more touching when Tapia described Jorge Messi's legacy as something that would never disappear. Your legacy will be forever engraved in the history of Argentine soccer and, above all, in the hearts of your family. It is a simple sentence, but one that carries enormous meaning. Because behind every trophy, every goal, every victory, and every historic moment achieved by Lionel Messi, there was a family figure who spent years providing support when the world did not yet know his name. Tapia also emphasized that Jorge's greatest achievement was not simply helping Lionel throughout his journey to becoming a soccer legend. His greatest achievement was always being by his son's side, especially when times were difficult, providing support, and accompanying Lionel through every stage of his life. At the end of his message, Tapia once again expressed his gratitude to Jorge Messi, not only for being an important part of the journey of a player who would eventually become known around the world, but also for helping shape a person with such a strong character. Thank you, Jorge, for being by Lionel's side and shaping his character. Thank you for giving the world a great player, but more importantly, for successfully raising a great human being. Rest in peace. Condolences also came from various soccer clubs. One of them was Real Madrid, which also expressed its support for Lionel Messi following the news of Jorge Messi's death. Real Madrid stated that the club, its president, and its board of directors were deeply saddened by the passing of Jorge Messi, Lionel Messi's father. They also extended their heartfelt condolences to Lionel, his family, and everyone who loved Jorge Messi. The message showed that although the rivalry in soccer can often be intense on the field, there are moments when all of those differences seem to stop. When a player loses one of the most important people in his life, the entire soccer world comes together to pay its respects. Jorge Messi was last seen in public in November 2025. After that, he underwent a long and difficult period of treatment before eventually passing away at the age of 68. Now, as people from around the world pay their final respects, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. Lionel Messi's journey may have produced countless trophies and records, but behind that legend there was always a father who played an important role from the very beginning. And perhaps that is Jorge Messi's greatest legacy. Not simply a son who became a global legend, but a human being who was raised with values that will continue to live on, even after the person who guided him is no longer here. Guardiola's shocking comments after Messi's father passed away. Pep Guardiola began his speech. He sat on the stage, bringing his hands together in front of him before taking a long, deep breath that showed the weight of the emotions he was carrying. He lowered his head for several seconds before slowly raising it again. His words came out quietly, hesitantly, and filled with genuine sadness, far removed from soccer and competition. Hello, everyone. I know very well that today you came here looking for answers, asking about my future in the world of soccer and all the endless calculations and plans that surround the game. But today, I stand before you completely unable to talk about anything related to the field. Believe me, there is no plan in this world, no match, no matter how important that match may be, that can even come close to the weight of the tragic news we have all received today. The news of Jorge Messi's passing. The news that Leo's father is gone. When I heard the news, I felt as though time had suddenly stopped. Because when we talk about someone as important as Jorge Messi, we are not simply talking about a man who came into this world and then left it. We are talking about the deep roots behind one of the greatest success stories in the history of this sport. Today, I am here not as the former coach who had the honor of working with Lionel, not as a rival or competitor on the field, but simply as a human being. A human being who knew firsthand and truly understood what the word family means in the life of this extraordinary soccer player. Let's talk with complete honesty and openness. As coaches, we often spend long nights convincing ourselves that we have a major influence on a player's journey. We imagine that our ideas are what create stars, and that our instructions are what shape their championship victories. But after so many years of working with Leo at Barcelona, I came to understand a powerful and undeniable truth. A coach changes the way a player plays, but a father is the true guardian of his soul and identity. I still remember very clearly the details of the beautiful and difficult years we went through together. Jorge was never simply a cold agent sitting behind a desk handling contracts or negotiating numbers and financial interests. It was never like that. He was the true human shield, protecting Leo from the cruelty of the outside world, from the pressure of fame at such a young age that could destroy a great player, and from all the storms that surrounded a young boy who left his homeland and his home at an early age to come to a foreign city called Barcelona. When Leo arrived in Spain as a little boy, frightened and physically fragile, with talent far greater than his age and physical condition, Jorge was there. He was the safe place Leo could always turn to whenever the difficulties of life and the feeling of being far from home became too heavy. Jorge was an impenetrable fortress, a place where every doubt and every obstacle would hit and then break apart. I still remember with great respect how he watched our training sessions quietly and calmly from a distance. He followed every movement with the eyes of a father who loved his son deeply, watching a part of his own heart take its first steps toward history. And with the eyes of an extremely protective father, always worried about his son because of the weight of the journey and the harsh judgment of people outside. If it had not been for Jorge's absolute and tireless belief in his son, and if it had not been for his brave decisions and enormous sacrifices when Leo was still a child facing medical and physical challenges early in his life, perhaps we would never have seen the eternal legend we know today as Lionel Messi. Jorge was the hidden architect and the true designer behind every magical moment that the soccer world has enjoyed for 2 full decades. And today, when I look at Leo and try to imagine the enormous emptiness and deep sadness he must be experiencing, my heart feels heavy and I am truly moved. Because I know firsthand just how sacred the relationship between a father and his son can be. A relationship that goes beyond blood and becomes a spiritual bond. Leo did not see Jorge simply as a father who guided him. He saw him as a compass that never pointed him in the wrong direction. As his closest friend, someone he could always turn to when the world became dark, and as the one person in the world who would tell him the truth, completely honestly and without sugarcoating it, no matter how harsh or painful that truth might be. Over the past several years, we all witnessed Jorge's health gradually deteriorate, and we could see it in Leo, even during the happiest moments, when he achieved major victories and reached the highest point of his career at the World Cup. There was a hidden look in Leo's eyes, a look that showed deep concern and a fear he had kept inside for so long. Leo carried an enormous psychological burden throughout that entire period. Deep down, he knew that the greatest source of support and the strongest pillar in his life was slowly being weakened by illness. And now, the most painful moment has arrived. The moment feared by every child who loves their parents in this world. Leo's sadness today is not simply the sadness of an athlete after losing a final, nor is it the sadness of a legend leaving the field while fans applaud him for the final time. This is the sadness of a human being who has lost a fundamental part of the roots and identity of his life. When Leo looks back at the past today, On any field or in any corner of his life, he will no longer find that familiar face. The face he used to search for with his eyes after scoring every goal. As if that face were silently sending him a message. I'm here, my son. You did it again. I want to say this to everyone, to all soccer fans, and to anyone who has admired everything Messi has achieved throughout his career. Always remember that before you see the goals and the trophies, behind this human miracle was a great man who believed in something impossible when no one else could see it. Leo is facing the most difficult and painful personal test of his entire life today. Trophies will come and go. Records are ultimately meant to be broken. But losing a father is the one absolute emptiness that cannot be filled or replaced by any soccer match in the world or by any amount of sporting glory. From where I stand today, I send all my love, all my deepest human empathy, and my prayers to Leo and his entire family during this incredibly dark time. Leo, know that millions of people around you are sharing in this pain, and the good spirit your father planted within you will continue to guide your steps, always and forever, everywhere you go. Rest in peace, Jorge. You fulfilled your purpose in this world in the most beautiful way, and you left behind an extraordinary human being who changed the course of history and brought happiness to millions of hearts around the world. Thank you for everything you gave.